Today is the last day of the program, so you're most welcome. I think we'll have a nice talking to each other, and any of your doubts and clarification that you want, which I can give you, I'll be very happy to share with you. So I'd first start with that I'll invite your questions one by one. If you've got any question on this or any other thing that you want to ask me, please come out one by one. Yes, please come out. It's basically you have got any doubt that we will discuss.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Arpita here.
Little louder, please. Huh?
Sir, Arpita here. Good morning.
Morning.
So I wanted to check, was knowledge management the last part of the syllabus?
Yeah.
Because as part of the basic syllabus chart that we got, we had covered already event management, marketing of training, selection of trainer, resource planning, and training plan and budget. So my question was, in knowledge management, what kind of questions may come? Will it be more application based or directly about the topic? I'm a little confused in that.
You require knowledge management we are given because as a trainer or the development and implementation of training, knowledge management is something important. So it's a peripheral understanding you should have.
Right.
So even if you get some question, it will be simply whatever you have listened from this. It is simple general questions may be there, right?
Right.
So don't bother about it. It is because this knowledge is required by you for managing training. In the sense, for a trainer must understand how to manage the knowledge today, how organizations should manage their knowledge. So the questions will be very simple if at all it's there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. So I had one more question.
Please.
The trainer as a consultant or an outside faculty, does the quality of that trainer need to be different from an in-house trainer? Apart from the fact that he would not know the candidate, the participants too well, are there any other differences between an external and an in-house trainer of an organization?
See what is expected in general. When do you call for the external trainer? When there is a shortage of trainer within the organization,
Right.
or the subject area is such that you require some people who has got a resource person and we have got better understanding of the subject. So although in general faculty have got no difference, they are all faculty,
Right.
but a external trainer is supposed to be somebody who has got very better knowledge and good knowledge, deep knowledge about the subject, right? So apart from that, there's not much of difference. It only depends upon how much experience he has got, what kind of exposure he have got, and what is his competence. In that, only in that respect it differs. But if you have got some in-house person who have got similar experience and knowledge, you may not like to call any outside faculty or outside consultant until and unless, of course, if he's busy somewhere or you have got different engagements. So that's the reason. Otherwise, there is no much of difference. Yes, please come out.
Right. Right. And so, final question is instructional strategy. That is a very important topic that we did, and we got a question in the assignment also.
Yeah.
During the exams, will it be more of application based of designing an instructional strategy for a particular program? Will that be the kind of questions that could be expected?
Once again, please do once again.
So for instructional strategy, what
Yeah.
kind of questions are expected in the exams? Because we had got an assignment in which we had to design an instructional strategy. So
Mhm.
is something similar we can expect during the exams also to design for a event or a particular training? Will is that can we expect that those kind of questions?
You see, when you understand instructional strategy, first thing is you need to understand instructional strategy. And when you understand it, it may be a straight question about instructional strategy, that is theoretical question. It may be a question which is purely practical, in the sense how you have to do it, how you have to implement that instructional strategy in the organization. So it may be a practical question, it may be a theoretical question. Both the things are possible. So you should understand the every process, each and every process of instructional strategy. What are the components of instructional strategy? And once you understand that, you can give the answer to the theoretical question, or you can give answer to any practical question also. But one thing I must tell you, what I have seen, that many people take a mistake between the two, instructional methods and instructional strategy. These two are entirely different things, you know. Instructional methods are the different kinds of methodology of giving training, whereas instructional strategy is a training plan. So don't make a mistake of, don't replace this by, say somebody, there is a question on instructional methods, don't write instructional strategy or vice versa. That is one
So,
mistake generally people do.
sir, request if you can elaborate instructional methods once more.
The instructional methods are that, then what way that we have seen that traditional methods of instruction, we have seen cognitive method, these are all methods of instruction.
Okay, okay.
How the training is to be delivered, whether
Yeah.
it should be a lecture method, whether it should be on the job training, whether it should be a demonstration method, those are instructional methods.
Okay.
But instructional strategy is the whole thing about implementing, developing and implementing the training program. That is
Right.
entirely different, where you have to see each and everything, right from the beginning to managing for the layout of the room, or the training materials, or the manuals for the people. I mean, everything has to be seen. So that is instructional strategy or training plan. So don't make a mistake between the two. That is what generally
Uh,
people do, right?
Sir, a query was designing of the activity or exercises. Will that be part of the instructional strategy or will it come in design?
So
Designing of
generally,
the
the designing
exercises.
question, if it is straight only designing question, that may come in the design paper, not in
Not in
instructional strategy.
this, right?
Huh.
Okay, okay. Got it. Thank you, sir.
That will not come in instructional strategy.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, sir.
Hmm. Yes, dear friends, anybody else, please come out. Nobody is asking any question. In that case, I'll ask you a question. Should I ask you a question? Hello. Now I am putting up a question to you. Can you tell me the 5 elements of instructional strategy? In instructional strategy, there are various elements involved. I want to know 5 elements of instructional strategy. Any 5 elements of instructional strategy, those things which you need to look into while developing an instructional strategy. Any 5 elements? Yes, one by one, please tell me. Nobody is there? Hello? Hello? Are you listening to me?
A very good morning, sir. Yes, we are able to listen. It's just that there's some issue with the chat. So I think most of us are not able to type anything there. And Arun is working at it
Okay.
on the side. So I think that's, and
Okay.
so that's one of the things. you asked about the 5 elements.
5 elements of instructional strategy. That which things you need to look for. Any 5 elements.
Good morning, sir. This is Manisha.
Good morning.
Sir, for me, I mean, the critical element that we need to take care of while designing instructional strategy must be uh, m- an active participation, uh, the objective of the training, retention, and the transfer of the training, and maybe the monitor and adjust according to the group of uh, trainees that we have. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Monitoring, what did you say?
Monitor and adjust according to the group of trainees.
See, whatever you are talking is more on the delivery of training, you know, how a trainer should manage the room, you know, manage the class. But instruction strategy is entirely different thing, you know. It is only one part of that instruction strategy, that how to deliver the training. But there are various other things which you are not looking into.
So just to add in here, will
Suppose, for example, now listen to me. Suppose, for example, you have to arrange for a training. What do you look for? What are the things you have to take care of? What strategies
so
will make?
in that case, the instructional equipment or maybe instructional material which is to be shared.
Yes, the
right?
materials to be given. Yes,
Right.
any other thing?
So I think the facilitator guides would also come there. The facilities or the venue that we have to look into,
Yes, venue
they
you
will
have
be
to
there.
see.
The trainer itself, who's the trainer, what kind of
Yes,
ability, or is it a facilitation style trainer that we want, or is it what kind of a training setting should be there? So I
yes.
think all of those should be the elements.
So if you say, for example, 5 layers, say a room layout, the venue, the room layout, the manual to be given to the trainers and the trainees, the materials to be delivered to the people, right? Who is the trainer? What kind of refreshment is to be given to them? Whether you require any outside consultant faculty or not. So all these things have to be taken care of in a training, in your instructional strategy.
Right.
So do not, again, I'm telling you, see, instructional methods and instructional strategy are entirely different. So instructional strategy or training plan will involve everything, entire thing of implementing the training program, right? But if I say training methodology,
Okay.
then it is different, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So will the selection of the participants and the training objective also be part of it?
Selection of the participant, yes,
And,
yes, it is also part of that.
and the objective of the training.
Objective
Training
will always be there. Objective is always there, because you see what happens, you know, in the earlier chapters you have seen training design, right? So when everything is done, training designing is done, and then we are now going to implement that process.
Yeah.
Now, for implementing that process, objective is always there in mind. Objective
Right.
is there in the design phase also in mind.
Input, output, all depends on that.
Yeah, it is there everywhere. The objective, everything will flow from the objective of the training. The objective decides that how the organization is going to be benefited by this training program, what result they are going to get, what kind of transfer of training you are expecting from this, right? That is the objective. But for doing that, we need to implement it. So when you talk of implementing it, that is arranging for the training program, what are the things required? And those are the room, the venues, the material, the manual, the trainer.
The aids, I would say,
even
audio visual aids, that will also come here, isn't it? The audio visual aid.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Whatever,
all that, all of that.
whatever equipments are required there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Everything is a part of it. Even with layout of the room, sitting arrangement itself is also
Absolutely.
something
Absolutely.
important in instruction style.
That's true.
Sir Neelam, here I would like to add something. In my notes, basically, the heading is written as elements of program design, and all these topics are coming under that. So that's why I was a little confused that is it element.
The
Program
difference is
design
what I'm telling you.
is,
Difference is in the design part, you're doing it theoretically.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
in the evaluation and implementation of training, which this particular place where instruction strategy is done, now given that theoretical background, which is an input for this process, which you have derived from the design phase, now we are going to implement it. Right?
Okay. Yeah,
So
because
there
it
things are
starts
theoretical, here things are practical.
right. Because my notes basically started from program title, objectives, and then the contents, duration. Then we slowly go down to the date, time.
That is more or less in the design part, yes. That is
Okay.
more or less the design part. What is the program title should be and all that. That one can very well get from the design, do it in the design phase. And that from the design phase, whatever is understood and whatever is finalized, that becomes an input for this particular stage, where now we are going to create an instructional strategy or that training plan.
Okay.
Both the
So
things are same.
should we mention this also, sir? If a question like that comes, we also these are the inputs like the program title, objectives, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Can we mention this also?
Just once again, what was?
I was saying if a question like that comes, do we mention all these elements of program design as well?
In a question on instructional strategy.
That's right.
No, when in an instructional strategy, you need not give those program title and all that, that is not required.
Okay. Okay.
You can give a reference to that, whatever as an input from the design stage, whatever has been given, now we are going to develop that and implement it.
Okay.
So for that, whatever is required further.
true.
Right. Sir.
And yeah, and Mr. Chakrabarti, I think we should always keep that ADDIE at the back of our mind, because even when we are talking about instructional strategy, we are in the development phase, so which is closer to the implementation phase. So the idea and implementation sometimes are really close, like, when we talk about it.
Once again, the last part I could not hear.
Yeah, so I was saying that because when we are in the development phase, the design is already it's the thought which is getting created. So for example, what the design we had thought about, how the manual would be, we are actually writing the content now, right, in the development phase. So and all that is closer to the implementation phase, which is part of the instruction strategy, how it plays out.
Yeah.
Right, I'm just thinking aloud.
Definitely is a part of that.
Yeah.
No doubt about
Okay.
it.
Got it.
Yes, any other question? Anybody else? Yes, please.
Sir, there is in the training process, basically.
Little louder, please. Little louder, please.
Yes, it contains 4 stages, basically pre-planning, planning, implementation, and evaluation. So question related to the stages is a possibility, and we should keep that in mind.
Question related to the possibility, that somebody may ask about that. You should know because the entire thing has been taught to you.
Right.
So you should give a structure. After that, if somebody asks, you can very well answer to it. No?
Okay.
I think you already know the different stages of it, right?
Right.
Till the to the evaluation part. So you can always answer to that. See,
Okay.
whatever is related with thing, you should come out openly. Doesn't matter. There is no
Okay.
boundary between the two areas or the two topics. Whenever required, you can talk the complete thing. Talk about the complete thing, depending upon the question, depending upon the context on which the question is being asked.
Right, sir.
Ah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
So is the training policy a part of the implementation plan also?
Just once more.
Preparing of the training policy would be part of the implementation plan, development plan rather.
Training policy, yes, it's a part of
Yeah.
that. Training policy is also to be framed, well, making the instructional strategy, although it's not exactly a part of it, but training policy is also relevant. It's relevant because you have to, all our guidelines and everything has to be done as per the training policy. So we have included training policy in this development and implementation stage, because if you want to implement something, you are required to follow the training policy. Now, say for example, if there is an organization where there is a branch, it wants to, a division wants to make some training program at their premises or somewhere else. Now, they will be guided as per the training policy, which is created by the head office of the central office. That this is the training policies according to which you can arrange your programs. Arrange in the sense that what kind of faculties you can hire, can you hire a consultant, what kind of material you are going to give, what kind of programs that you can do, or you have to get a sanction for doing that program, or the head central office says, yes, these are the kinds of programs you can do if this is permitted. So a training policy is a source from where the people are guided at different levels. It depends upon the organization. Maybe in an organization, everything is centralized from the central office. Anything that one wants to do, you have to take permission first, then do it. Or it may be decentralized where some guidelines are given, and according to that, the divisions or the branches or those offices can conduct their programs and develop their programs and arrange their programs, right? So training policy is relevant.
So if it's a new organization, then is it recommended to create a training policy first and then develop the instructional strategy?
See, a training policy, that is the first thing, for doing anything. Organization will first create its own training policy. Training policy may say that we are not going to conduct any program within the in-house. We will conduct all programs outside. That's a training policy, and everyone has to follow that. So training policy is the first thing. In every organization, they create a training policy. Then they create a training budget, right? So all other departments concerned, wherever the training is going to be conducted, they are being guided by those policies, right? So the
Right.
policy is the first thing, the first and the foremost thing. The policy, every organization frames that policy.
Got it.
Please come out. It's your day, you have to talk to me. You can talk on anything, regarding the. Yeah.
Um, it's me again. Mr. Chakrabarti, just if you could talk a little bit more on the learning objectives and training objectives.
Training
Is it
objective.
Learning objectives and training objectives. Like when we have to draft them, when we have to draft the training objective and the learning objective
Yeah.
for a certain batch, could you
You
just
see, whenever any organization, everything starts flowing from the organizational objective,
That's right.
the organizational strategy, and the organizational objectives. Whenever it is found that an organization to exist in the environment, to face the challenges, and to remain
Relevant.
excellent in the existing environment,
Hmm.
they need to develop their people. That is the first thing.
True.
Now, when there is a question of developing their people who can be competent enough to handle face the challenges of the environment,
Hmm.
the only way out is to develop those people. Now, developing those people in what way? That is the question.
Right.
Developing the people is we can develop people by giving them training, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Giving them training. Now the question is, why should you give training? How does the training affect people?
Improves their skills, improves
Now,
their
training is a
attitude.
process
Right.
that transfers the knowledge to the people and creates learning.
That's right.
Training is a process that creates learning. Try to understand it.
Yeah.
Training is a tool, is an instrument which develops people by giving them learning. The moment I say learning, learning means learning has got an objective.
Hmm.
Learning is not merely getting knowledge.
Right. Hmm.
Learning is a process of imbibing the habits, changing the
Right.
habits of people. When we find that by getting that training, they have imbibed those things in their behavior
Mhm.
or in their performance, then it's a learning process.
Right.
So there are two things. One is the training.
Hmm.
If the training does not give learning, then it's useless.
No use. Yeah. Yeah.
So there is one training objective, because the objective is this: we need to develop people. That is our objective, and we need to transfer the training, in the sense transfer the learning to the people. Now, what is expected from that learning objective is that they should be able to show certain, develop their performance,
Hmm.
imbibe certain habits. That is the learning objective. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
So
Yes.
training as objective has got something, and learning objective something, and these things together give the result to the organization.
Right.
Are you getting my point?
Yes.
Yeah.
And can we also say that to check how much of learning objective has been met is when we use the evaluation.
Just once more, it is not clear
Sure.
to me.
Sure. Am I audible now?
Little louder.
Okay.
Please.
All right. I was saying, will it be correct to say that its evaluation is done on the basis of how much of learning objective has been met?
Yes, you can, to a large extent, you can say that. See, when you say that the evaluation, you see that how much the training is transferred to the people. Transfer
Right.
of training,
Right.
And transfer of training means what? Transfer of training is assessed or evaluated on the basis of the change in the behavior,
Absolutely.
change in the performance.
Right.
That is what is learning.
Got it,
So
sir.
our learning objective will be to evaluate that what they have really got. So you're right that evaluation will be on the basis of the results of the learning objective that we have planned for.
Got it. Got it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your patience, sir. Thank you.
So I have another question.
Please.
You had mentioned in one of the classes that the training process for senior managers is different from the junior managers. Can you please repeat?
Just
a
once
little
more.
bit? So the
The sound is
training
not very
process,
low. Huh?
yeah, just a second. The training process of conducting training for senior managers or top executives would be different from those who are more junior in the organization. Any examples if you can give for that? We had discussed this once in one of the classes previously.
You want an example for that?
Yeah, how to do that for senior managers? What is more effective to do the training programs for them?
Okay. You see, it depends upon the purpose of the training program. Now, say for example, if you are going to give a training program where the senior officials are required to have some basic understanding of computers, they don't require the deep knowledge of it, because as such they are not going to work on that. So the training program will be different. It is simply an awareness program will be done. But if you are going to talk about the strategies of the organization, the planning and different high-level functions, then the training program will be different. Generally, the people at the higher level, they will be trained on the area of strategic importance to the organization. And if you talk about the middle level people, they will, because as you know, that is the tactical level, how to get things done. See, three different distinct area of operation is there. The top management, they are at the strategic level. So there will be more of strategy, planning, all those kinds of things will be discussed there. Whereas in the middle level people, the how to get the things done, and there probably the behavioral inputs will be given more to them, and then how to get things done, what are the leadership qualities that they need to have, and they can get the work done from the people. Whereas at the junior level, they'll be more at the functional level, the operational
Right.
level.
Right.
At the operational level, they are supposed to exactly do the work what is required to be done at their own level. So there more of practical things will be there, more of on the job training will be there, right? More of involvement will be there. Whereas as you go higher, in the middle level also you require role playing and those kinds of things, because they have to do certain things which are not exactly the on the job thing, but also not at the strategic level. If they go to the top level, they are more on the strategic level. But then it depends. Sometimes they are required to be given some basic understandings of certain subjects, although they are not going to do that, then the training program will be different. So it will depend upon that what kind of training program you are going to do and what level of people you are going to train. According to that, your training program will be decided, the topics or the materials and everything will be decided according. The training methodology will depend upon those factors.
Right.
Have you got your answer, or you got something else to say?
So just in addition to this, to make such a training successful, the instructional method should be different for the senior managers, right? It cannot be more of unidirectional.
You see, always instructional strategy, instructional methods will depend upon two things: the subject matter and the group, and the level of the people. So both the things will decide. If it is more of job-oriented things, so there you have to do more of practical things. You may have to do on-the-job training. You may have to do something on the machines, right?
Right.
But suppose you are going to talk to the people and giving the behavioral input, the training methods will be different. So training method will depend upon the subject matter and the level of the people, and as well as the seriousness of the program. And in certain program, the people who have joined the training program, they have to, just after completion of the training program, they have to go and start the work then and there. Then the methodology will be different. More of the practical aspects of things will be taken into account so that they can go and just start with that program. So it will depend upon so many factors, in the sense, number one, the level of the people, the subject matter, the urgency and importance of the subject matter, all these things.
And thanks. And so one more question was, you had mentioned on analysis report in the class on event management. Is there any specific technique of report writing that we should be well versed with for any question in the exam? Is that
I
expected?
just could not get this question.
So you had mentioned about preparing of analysis reports in event management on
Analysis report.
yeah, there was a discussion on who the people would be involved, the marketing cost, what programs would be successful in the market, a report on that when we are deciding on going for a new event. So this kind of report, does it have a standard format which we should be aware of, or
See, no, this may or may not have a standard format. That depends upon the organization. Now, every organization, they may have their own way of putting the things as report to the senior people. So they may develop something. There is nothing standard on it. Because I got your point. You were telling that if you want to decide a venue or you want to decide the consultants are going to do, who are going to be hired and all that. So every organization may have their own way of looking at it. They may have their own format. There is no standard prescribed thing. But if you look into any organization's format, you can also create your own format according to that,
Got
depending upon your priorities. Yes.
got it, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I was talking to Arpita, but nobody else is
Yes.
talking.
Sir, in terms of books, out of the two books, which would be, because I really could not trace too much in the books. Will
Yeah,
your notes
this
be sufficient, sir? Because it's always a challenge about this
maybe the
paper.
Blanchard's book is enough for this.
Blanchard. Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it, sir.
That's enough. You don't see anything else.
All
Nothing
right,
else.
sir.
Everything is available there. You just go through the chapter. I think it is the 8th chapter,
Okay.
chapter 8. Yes, all my
Sir,
other dear
sir,
spectators. Yeah.
sir, is there any specific plan being a training head in an organization that you need to follow when preparing a training force internally within the organization just to manage the budget, despite hiring a trainer from an outside, I mean, as a consultant?
Uh-huh. For that,
So, is there any specific plan that we can uh, follow to develop the internal training forces, and what are the elements that we need to use?
you said initially, what did you say? To follow a training?
Sir, being a training head, just in case if we need to uh, identify the internal training force.
Okay.
So what plan of selecting and developing trainers can be followed within the organization?
You see, you can maybe if you're in your organization, if there is already a method existing, that's fine. Otherwise, you can always develop a method. And that is, the process is like this. Say, for example, you require to have your internal faculties, internal trainers, right? Now,
Okay.
then you have to sit and decide. You can put up a note from your HR department that since we are going to select people as trainer in our organization, you can suggest the basic requirements, in the sense the experience in different areas of job, the qualification, interest of the people. Sometimes it is also done that who else are interested with these basic qualification and experience,
Right.
they can apply for. Now suppose you get 10 people or 15 people who have got the requisite qualification, experience and interest in the area of training, and then you can make a written test, or you can make an interview. In general, only interview is sufficient. So you can interview. Their senior people will sit there and they will find the competence of the people, and you can make competency mapping, or you can just assess from how the way they, or you can even have some demo training session, how people talk
Right.
about. I mean, you need not to see that they are highly proficient, but at least they should have the element of that they can talk well, they don't fumble, and they understand the subject. If they know certain subject, they can express it well, and you can select those people. Then those people can be given some training, either some in-house training or some outside training. So some kind of faculty development training can be given to them, who will become your panel for your training within the organization. So that can be developed very well. So and that's the process how generally it is done.
All
And
right, sir.
in that also, this is only what you're talking about, the internal training faculties. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Sir Neelam here again. The instructional design and training plan, we can say, is almost like one and the same thing, right, sir?
Yeah, it is same thing.
Same thing, right? Okay.
It is same thing, exactly same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
There are, I think, yeah.
so I have a question for creating of a training budget. Are there any particular steps to follow?
Particular,
Steps to follow for creation of a training budget?
you see, the training budget, what generally happens that, see, in the organization, it depends that where the training will be conducted. Now, suppose there is an organization which has got a central office, head office, and then there are divisional office or branch office or the regional offices, or there may be training centers of that organization. So there are different kinds of formats. One format is this, that a big organization, they have got 10 training centers geographically located at different places. So all those training centers will conduct their training program. Now the question is, what is the allocated budget for them? That is to be decided. So that central office, HR department of the central office, they form a policy regarding the training in the organization, and they give a understanding about that what kind of expenditures one can make, and they can ask the different centers, training centers, to give their prepare their budget, that their expected training programs, what will be the expenditure in different heads, and they ask them to send it to the central office for approval. So every center, depending upon the possible and the potential number of people they are going to train in a year, they may make a training budget, and where they will look into what will be the cost of the guest faculty, what is the cost of the materials, what will be the cost of equipment, and all other things what is required in the training, in the what we talk in our instructional strategy. Everything will be there, and that's why it is known as a training plan. So they make a training plan that throughout the year, these are the kinds of training programs we are going to conduct. Of course, that they will decide on the basis of the training policy given by the central office. So on the basis of that, they will make a proposed budget. Now that proposed budget will go to the central office for approval, and whatever is the hierarchical requirement, and depending upon the organization, that may be done at different levels. So then ultimately the budget will be sanctioned, and that sanctioned budget will be kept with the concerned center, and they will keep on making expenditures on that. And if they, by any reason, they have to exceed it, either they take a prior permission or they make an expenditure, then they get a sanction from the central office, post sanction from the central office, right? So this is the way by which the organization can manage to control the expenditure on the training. Whatever is their purpose, what they really intend to, how much they really intend to make expenditure, how much expenditure they want to make on training head. So on the basis of that, the training budget will also become monitored and controlled.
Thank you, sir.
Have you got your point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? I can see some names: Siddhant, Shruti. Nobody wants to talk?
So is a learning point is same like a learning outcome?
No. Outcome is the result.
Yeah.
Outcome is the result of that. And the learning point is what you have learned.
Okay.
You see, I have learned something, But how that has been translated into my performance, that is the outcome.
Okay.
No, are you not getting?
Yes, yes, I got it, sir.
Outcome is the result of it.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Now, whatever has been said in our PowerPoint presentations and in our programs, I mean the recordings, just follow that. That's enough for you. That's going to help you a lot.
Sir, the exams dates have been finalized, or if you're aware about
So,
it?
you see, I am also not exactly aware of that right now. Anyone can answer to this question? What do you mean by rapport building?
So it's creating of the connection, the connect with the audience, so that they feel more comfortable in get sharing their views or learning from the trainer. The connect is built better if a better rapport is created right from the beginning.
How the connect is created?
So
What happens?
right from the icebreaker session and from effective questioning are two of the methods through which it could be created. How the welcoming of the participants are done, the trainer
Okay, whatever you are
feedback.
saying,
Yeah,
now listen, whatever you are saying is the activities that is done.
yeah.
But I'm trying to ask you, what happens by this? What actually happens by which people get connected?
I
Ice
would
breaking
say
is good enough, ice breaking that creates.
those
But
are
what
techniques,
happens
yes.
actually? Can you please
Yeah.
tell me?
So in rapport building, the facilitator or the trainer treats all the participants at par. You do not put, as a facilitator, you do not put yourself on a pedestal to show that I know better or I am at a far higher position than you and you have to learn from me. So that kind of a disconnect is removed and you treat them as adult learners. You treat them as people who are coming with their own share of experience. And that's how rapport building starts and it continues. You make them feel comfortable. You create that the environment is a
Okay,
safe zone for them.
now I'm asking you a question. When you want to get connected to somebody, what is the first thing that should happen? What is the first thing that should happen? I'm not saying what is the first thing you should do. I'm asking what is the first thing that will happen, then the connect will be there.
They will be at ease and they will share in a better
Yeah,
way. They will be at ease.
there will be a,
They will be at ease to share their experience or to ask questions without any inhibition.
there
They
will
will be
be
comfortable.
acceptance from the other side. That is the first
Totally.
thing.
Yes.
If you want to get connected to somebody, you have to first create acceptance in the mind of the other person.
Right.
Now, once the acceptance is created, means you are connected. Now, the question is this: how do you create that acceptance? Now, you can create acceptance of somebody, when you give him importance, when you listen to him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you listen to somebody, whatever he is saying, you get acceptance from the other person because the other person becomes connected with you. In the
Right.
rapport building process, we try to create that acceptance by listening to him. And that's why in a rapport building, there are two steps. One is known as leading, another is known as pacing, P-A-C-I-N-G,
And yeah, right.
right?
Yeah.
Leading means what? Leading is the second step, pacing is the first step.
First.
So the pacing, what is the, you just listen to him. You follow him, whatever he says. You agree to that. You listen to that. By that, he gets that sense of acceptance from your side, and you
He or she
also
leads you.
accept him. The connect is created. Once the connect is created, then you can start leading, in the sense you can put forward your proposal and that will also become accepted by the other person.
Excellent.
So that happens in a classroom also. To create a rapport, a trainer has to first listen to the peer, listen to the students, create that acceptance by listening to them, talking to them, giving them importance, allowing them to express their ideas and their thoughts, right?
Right. That's why a safe environment. You create that safe zone for them.
Yeah.
As a trainer, you create a safe zone for them so that
Yes,
they can
of course.
ask questions, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And when that is created, then whatever so that's why it is said that the beginning period is very important. The first few
crucial.
moments,
Yeah.
or the first few minutes, or the first few 10 minutes is very important. How a trainer can create an impression in the minds of the people.
That's true. So we can,
They
yeah.
start feeling that trainer is just at their own level, you know.
Right.
So
And also the non-verbal. So if I may just add to that,
Yeah.
it would also include the non-verbal behavior from the side of the trainer the moment he or she enters the room. Because you call them vibes or you call them the aura of a person. It all is there in front of the people.
Absolutely.
So it starts from there. Yeah.
I have a question, sir, and Sharmishta is also there. In terms of online learning, how do we build a rapport? Because especially if the participant is new, we don't know them.
See, yes, of course, I understand that in online it is far more difficult.
Yeah.
To create a rapport, but then here only you have got only one tool, and that's your verbal tool.
That's true. So if I may just,
visual is very, very limited. You know, you cannot have that.
That's
so you have to talk in such a way. You have to talk logically, sequentially, and so that it makes a meaning of that. You know, it makes a sense in the minds of the other person. You know, to present whatever you want to say, present sequentially and logically, which can create a meaning in the minds of the other people, you know. Because that's so that every point of time, a trainer has to think that what the other person is thinking.
True.
He should not just keep on throwing information, right? If you just keep on throwing information, the other person will not be able to gather it. The trainer must know that what is the purpose for which the training that people have come here and what they're expecting from you. And you have to throw your talks and your sentences and your logic and everything according to that. And then that's a very sensible thing, and it's a difficult thing also, you know, to really create that importance, because the visual thing that creates a lot of importance, you know, a lot of impact on the minds of the people, which you are not being able to do it right now, right?
Yeah.
So, but it is possible to be done, but it's far more difficult.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Is that all? Anybody else? No? I've still got some more time. You can think about something. Any question, any idea, any thoughts?
Sir, Ajay Kumar Shukla here, sir. I had a question, sir.
Thank you, Ajay, for coming out.
Sir, it is very difficult to come out. That is where the rapport building, and that is where your skills, sir, presenting logically, had given me a chance to ask the questions. Thank you very much for that, sir.
Okay.
Sir, having the organization climate, most of the different organizations have different organizational climates, and to have an effective training in these kind of situations where there is a challenge of COVID and all those things, where the people are losing their jobs. So what would be the way forward to have a better organizational climate which is suitable for the training and adaptable to the requirements of future?
Can you become a little more specific in the question?
Like the organizations nowadays are looking towards training and development as a kind of a platform which may not be required because sales is not happening. Okay, so might be thinking of changing these training department and keeping the sales people only. Going ahead, what would be the required climate for any organization to have a better training so that there will be a better sales looking at the present scenario of COVID?
You see, the first thing that I would say that COVID is, of course, it has created a lot of problems for people, and it has created a lot of difficulties for people. But such changes, such abrupt changes when it comes to the environment, that really is a learning point. People start understanding and realizing the importance of what they are doing earlier. Now you can very well understand the importance of going out and meeting people freely as you were doing earlier, and the importance of that. But maybe prior to that, it was not at all important. You are taking it for granted. So the first thing is the learning process. As you know, that today the training, implementing the training is a very difficult process now. And even if people are enthusiastic about doing online training, they also understand the heart of their heart that even the training program is being done, that is not to the expectations, right? But yes, by this process today we have learned how to use the technology. We have learned how to use technology, and particularly for the trainers, it is a very good learning, because trainers of tomorrow, not tomorrow, even today, you have to depend upon largely on the online things, conducting webinars, conducting these kinds of e-learning sessions and all that. This will become the part of the story of every trainer's life, and so this has become a very important aspect for the trainers. Now, as you were talking about, so this is something which may not be a permanent thing, but this has come to us with certain learnings, and that learning is invaluable for the organization as well as for the trainers. So now we are ready for both the things, and we have learned both the things. Tomorrow, if there is a physical training classes, then it is already being done, but we can complement that and compensate that with some kind of webinars and all that. For every program, we need not do physical classes. So there will be some programs which can be done online, and where the webinars can be conducted, or this kind of online programs can be conducted. But whenever there are practical applications and all that, where the physical programs can be done. So we have got now options. Now, since there is an option, it will become much better, because for everything you need not waste our time to become physically present everywhere. So I think the options are now better. Now the choices are more with the organizations. So in the coming time, they'll have some program they can do only online, and then some program they will do physically. It will depend upon what kind of program and what is the importance of that program. For a general awareness program, why should somebody come and do a physical program at all? So there, the online programs can go there. It can be conducted, right? So tomorrow, this has become a learning phase. People have learned it, and in the post-COVID days, one can make a very judicious choice between the various kinds of training methodologies, training process that can be adopted in the organization. This is a learning process. So there is probably we are not lost anything. We have gained in that at that point of time. In this, from this point of view, could I tell you something, or you have got something to ask?
Yes, sir. But my question is that what kind of organizational climate?
No. Sound is not coming once again.
Sir, what kind of organizational climate now the organization should have? That is the question, sir.
What kind of organizational climate organization should have?
Yes, sir. Going ahead.
Every organization should have a very good climate. What is there? I could not follow the question.
If I can just add, hi Ajay, Sharmishta here.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, hi. It's not to answer the question, because it's something nobody can really talk at this time. Probably you should think on what are the changes in the training policy that your organization or organizations at large can bring in now, because since we are talking about training, right? So your question might be more relevant to ask what changes would be there in the training policy now on?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, Sarmisha, why I am asking is that because in this present scenario, trainers are getting as a treatment of exit from the organizations.
I
Because
understand that part.
that is why the question is, being a trainer, what kind of organizational climate should I look ahead for
See,
organization or different kind of organization which would accept me as a trainer?
So you're
Okay,
talking about what all skills and attitudes you need to develop in yourself so that you can be relevant as a trainer in other organizations too.
That can be just one part of it.
Let me come in. Let me come in, please.
Yeah.
See, you should think this question in a little different way. Rather than thinking that what kind of organization I'm looking for, one should think, a trainer should think that because of these changes now, how should I equip myself differently so that I may be suitable for any kind of organization. I mean, I can deliver talks on any platform or any kind of thing using the technologies and all that. So what kind of changes that I require to make within myself? You know, what you look for, you may not get. But what changes you can bring within you that you can show to the other, because you don't have any control over the climate of the organization. So you cannot think about it. But you have got control over your own capabilities and your own skills that you can develop.
So on that, sir, what kind of skills and qualities would be required going ahead, sir? Can you give a tip on
That's the
that?
question. What kind of qualities that will be required going ahead? Number one quality that you should have all the understanding of using the technology. That's one very important thing. I mean, the people should know how to conduct e-programs, how to conduct webinars and all that, right? How to use even social media, how one can use it for, if somebody is a freelance trainer, how he is going to use it. And that also you should know. That also you should know. So one has to develop himself from that point of view. And that's what is, that skills are required. So how you can be a better person in giving the online trainings. So for that, you can develop your online trainings, you can deliver it, you should be able to know the various technology behind it. That's something very important. And one more thing, that visibility has to be created, you know. When you are physically, you can meet people, the visibility is entirely different. Now, today you have to make your online visibility seen by other people. You should be able to discover, you know, and that you have to communicate and be visible to the other people. That is also one very essential quality of trainer today. Either he is in working somewhere or he is a freelance trainer. He should be visible to the people, right?
Right.
I think you have not got your answer yet.
Sir, I got it. maybe it is the requirement of the need to become digitally equipped, and digital marketing would be a better platform for us to learn and upskill ourselves.
Absolutely.
And next questions are that I am having is that when is ISTD going to start the digital marketing course?
That's not yet decided. I think you'll come to know the course of time.
Hope, sir, we can have that also.
That's a good course. One should know that. I think it will be done after the examinations, probably. I am not very sure about it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, is there any other question, or should call it a day? Yes, Mr. Agrawal, to all of you for the examination.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes, sir.
very much.
Thank you, sir.
So in case there's any question in the future, can we have an email ID or some method of